Before we begin the story, let us know where you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. Napa Valley, California. Cousin Lily's wedding. Noah Carter's heart pounded like a drum solo as he surveyed the perfectly manicured vineyard where his entire extended family had gathered. 3 tables of curious aunts, chattering cousins, and his grandmother Lillian, the family matriarch who'd made finding him a girlfriend her personal mission. "Where's this mysterious Emma you keep talking about?" Grandma Lillian gripped his arm with surprising strength for her 82 years. 2 years of dating, and you've never brought her to a single family event. What are you hiding, sweetheart? Noah's throat went dry. Emma had never existed. She was a fictional girlfriend he'd invented to escape the endless blind dates his family orchestrated. A perfect lie that had worked beautifully until now. She's in the restroom, Grandma, for 30 minutes? Aunt Margaret swooped in like a social hawk, her wine glass already half empty. "Noah, honey, are you sure this girl is even real?" Panic crawled up his throat. In about 60 seconds, his entire family would know he'd been lying for 2 years. His cousin Daniel would never let him live it down. His mother would launch into full matchmaker mode, and Grandma Lillian would probably faint from the disappointment. The wedding photographer suddenly appeared beside their table. "Excuse me, are you Noah Carter?" "The bride asked me to get some shots of you with your girlfriend. She said, Emma's here somewhere." Every eye at the table locked onto him. The photographer's camera hung ready. His family leaned forward expectantly. Noah's brain short-circuited. He spun around desperately, scanning the crowd of wedding guests. His eyes landed on a woman in a midnight blue dress standing alone by the dessert table, her back to him, auburn hair swept up in an elegant updo. Perfect. There she is. Before rational thought could stop him, Noah strode across the reception area with the confidence of a man who definitely knew what he was doing and absolutely wasn't about to make the biggest mistake of his life. The woman was reaching for a mini cheesecake when he approached from behind. "Emma, there you are," he said loudly enough for his family to hear. She turned around, and Noah's world tilted on its axis. Not because she was beautiful, though she was, with striking amber eyes and a face that belonged in a classic painting. No. His world tilted because this woman was clearly not named Emma, definitely not his girlfriend, and was now staring at him like he'd sprouted wings. But his family was watching. The photographer had his camera raised, and Grandma Lillian was already heading over with a triumphant smile. Noah had exactly 1 second to make a choice. He kissed her. It was supposed to be quick, a brief peck, to sell the charade, until he could figure out an escape plan. But the moment their lips met, something electric shot through him. She tasted like champagne and strawberries, and for one impossible moment, she kissed him back. Then reality crashed down like a collapsing house of cards. She pushed him away, her eyes blazing with fury. "What on earth do you think you're doing?" The photographer's flash went off. That's exactly what the bride wanted, a romantic moment. The mystery woman's mouth fell open. Noah's family erupted in cheers behind them, and Noah Carter realized he had approximately 30 seconds to explain to this gorgeous, furious stranger why he'd just kissed her in front of 50 people, and why she was now apparently his fake girlfriend. "I can explain," he whispered urgently. Her eyebrow arched dangerously. "This better be spectacular. Napa Valley, California, 30 seconds after the kiss." "Spectacular?" Noah's voice cracked like a teenager's. "Right. Spectacular explanation. I can do that." The mystery woman crossed her arms, her amber eyes narrowing to dangerous slits. "You have 20 seconds before I start screaming." "Noah!" Grandma Lillian's voice cut through the vineyard like a foghorn. She was barreling toward them with the determination of a woman who'd finally caught her grandson in a lie. "There you are, dear. And this must be Emma." The woman's head whipped between Noah and his approaching grandmother. "Emma? Who's Emma?" "You are," Noah whispered desperately. "Please, just play along for 2 minutes. I'll explain everything, I promise." "Are you completely insane?" "Probably," he admitted. "But my grandmother has a weak heart, and if she finds out I've been lying about having a girlfriend for 2 years, she might actually—" "Emma, sweetheart." Grandma Lillian reached them, moving faster than Noah had seen her move since her hip replacement. She immediately pulled the stunned woman into a bone-crushing hug. "Oh, you're even more beautiful than Noah described. though he certainly undersold those gorgeous eyes of yours. The woman, definitely not Emma, stood frozen in his grandmother's embrace, her gaze shooting daggers at Noah over Lillian's silver hair. Thank you, Mrs. Lillian dear, just Lillian. We're practically family. His grandmother stepped back, beaming. Now, I have to ask, when is this grandson of mine going to put a ring on your finger? 2 years is long enough to know, don't you think? Noah watched the color drain from Emma's face. This was going from bad to catastrophic. Actually, Grandma, we're taking things slow. Slow? Aunt Margaret appeared like a heat-seeking missile, wineglass in hand. Honey, at your age, slow is how you end up alone with cats. Emma, sweetie, you need to light a fire under this boy. A fire? Not, Emma repeated weakly. Margaret, leave them alone, came a new voice. Noah's mother, Ellen, approached with the measured step of a woman who could smell drama from 3 counties away. Emma, I'm Ellen, Noah's mother. I've been dying to meet you. The poor woman looked like she was trapped in a nightmare. Noah had to do something. Mom. Emma's a little overwhelmed by meeting everyone at once. Overwhelmed? Nonsense. Grandma Lillian waved dismissively. Emma, dear, tell us about yourself. What do you do for work? Where did you two meet? Do you want children? I'm not. Emma's eyes darted around desperately before landing on the vineyard sign behind them. I'm a sommelier. Noah blinked. That was actually brilliant. A sommelier? His mother clapped her hands together. How fascinating. Where do you work? Here. Not. Emma said quickly, then seemed to realize her mistake. I mean, not here specifically, but in Napa. I consult for various vineyards. Aunt Margaret leaned in conspiratorially. And the wedding? How romantic that you two are attending a wedding together. Practice for your own, perhaps? The woman's composure finally cracked. Look, I think there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding at all. Grandma Lillian beamed. Young love is beautiful, though. I do think it's time we got that engagement announcement, don't you, Ellen? Noah's mother nodded enthusiastically. I couldn't agree more, Emma. You'll have to come to Sunday dinner next week. The whole family will want to meet you properly. Sunday dinner? Not. Emma repeated faintly. With the whole family, Aunt Margaret added helpfully. About 35 people, give or take. That's when not. Emma's knees buckled slightly. Noah caught her arm. You know what? Emma's been traveling all morning, he improvised quickly. Maybe we should let her get some fresh air. Of course. His mother's face creased with concern. How thoughtless of us. Go on, you two lovebirds. We'll catch up more at dinner. Noah practically dragged the shocked woman away from his family toward a quieter corner of the vineyard. When they were safely out of earshot, she spun on him. 35 people? Sunday dinner? Are you completely out of your mind? Look, I know this looks bad. Looks bad? Her voice pitched higher. You kissed a complete stranger, told your entire family I'm your girlfriend, and now I'm apparently a sommelier named Emma who's expected at family dinner. Technically, you came up with the sommelier part, Noah pointed out. Her amber eyes flashed dangerously. Don't you dare put this on me. You're right. You're absolutely right. He ran his hands through his hair. This is completely my fault. But please, just hear me out. My family has been trying to set me up for years. My grandmother literally has a notebook full of potential wives. I invented Emma to buy myself some peace, but I never thought they'd actually want to meet her. So, you thought you'd just grab the nearest woman and hope for the best? Well, when you put it like that, it sounds really stupid. It is really stupid. They stared at each other for a moment. Then unexpectedly, her lips twitched. This is insane, she murmured. Completely insane, Noah agreed. But would you consider helping me out just for today? I swear I'll figure out a way to get you out of this without embarrassing either of us. She studied his face for a long moment. What's your real name? Noah Carter. And you're definitely not Emma. Definitely not. I'm Emma Lou, she paused. And I can't believe I'm even considering this, but your grandmother seems really sweet. She is. She just wants me to be happy. And lying to her makes you happy? Noah winced. No, it makes me temporarily less miserable. There's a difference. Despite herself, Emma almost smiled. You're terrible at this. At what? Being charming. Most guys who randomly kiss strangers at weddings are at least good at talking their way out of trouble. Would you believe me if I said this was my first random stranger kiss? Actually, yes. You look like you're about to throw up. They stood there in the fading California sunlight, surrounded by the gentle hum of wedding festivities and the distant laughter of his family. Noah realized he was holding his breath. So, Emma said finally, tell me about Emma. Napa Valley Vineyard, under the string lights. Noah stared at Emma, trying to figure out where to begin, explaining 2 years of elaborate fiction. The wedding reception continued around them, string lights casting a warm glow over the vineyard as couples swayed to a jazz quartet. Emma, he said finally, is supposedly a pediatric nurse from Portland. She has a rescue dog named Muffin, makes the world's best chocolate chip cookies, and is allergic to shellfish. Emma's eyebrows rose. You've really thought this through. I had to. My family asks follow-up questions. Noah loosened his tie, feeling the weight of his deception. She volunteers at animal shelters on weekends, loves hiking, and has a small scar on her left hand from a childhood accident involving a bicycle and a very unfortunate fence. Wow, that's incredibly specific. My cousin Daniel is a detective. He notices details. They were interrupted by the sound of clapping as the bride and groom took the dance floor for their first dance. The crowd gathered around, and Noah felt Emma stiffen beside him as his family spotted them again. There they are. Grandma Lillian waved them over. Come on, you two. Family photos. Before either could protest, they were swept into the crowd of Carter family members assembling for pictures. Noah found himself with Emma pressed against his side, her hand resting lightly on his chest as the photographer arranged them. Act natural, she whispered through her smile. I don't remember what natural feels like anymore, he whispered back. Big smile, Emma, called out Uncle Frank, Noah's father's brother, who had the unfortunate habit of speaking in exclamation points. Welcome to the crazy Carter clan. Emma's smile brightened automatically. Thank you. Everyone's been so welcoming. The photographer snapped away while Noah marveled at how easily she slipped into the role. She laughed at Uncle Frank's terrible jokes, complimented Aunt Margaret's dress, and even managed to look genuinely interested when his teenage cousin Ryan started explaining his latest video game obsession. She's perfect for you, Grandma Lillian whispered to Noah during a brief lull. Don't you dare let this one get away. Guilt twisted in his stomach like a knife. Grandma, I mean it, Noah. That girl looks at you like you hung the moon, and you light up like a Christmas tree when she smiles. That's the real thing, sweetheart. Noah glanced at Emma, who was now deep in conversation with his mother about wine pairings. She was animated, gesturing with her hands, completely at ease despite the insane situation they were in. When she laughed at something his mother said, the sound sent an unexpected flutter through his chest. May I have everyone's attention? The bride, Lily, appeared with a microphone, glowing in her wedding dress. I wanted to thank everyone for being here to celebrate with Nathan and me. But I have a special announcement. The crowd quieted, glasses raised expectantly. Some of you might not know this, but my cousin Noah has been hiding his girlfriend from us for 2 years. Lily beamed at them. But tonight, we finally get to meet the famous Emma. Noah, bring her up here. Noah's blood turned to ice water. Emma went very still beside him. Come on, Lily continued, oblivious to their panic. I want everyone to meet the woman who finally tamed my workaholic cousin. The crowd began chanting, Emma, Emma. And suddenly, there was no escape. Uncle Frank was literally pushing them forward, and Emma shot Noah a look that clearly said, You owe me big time for this. They found themselves on the makeshift stage next to Lily, facing a sea of expectant faces. The microphone appeared in Emma's hand. Hi, everyone, she said, her voice only slightly shaky. I'm Emma, and I have to say, Noah's told me so much about all of you that I feel like I already know you. Tell us how you two met, someone called out. Emma glanced at Noah, panic flickering in her eyes. He stepped closer, taking the microphone. We met at a coffee shop, he said, remembering the story he'd told his mother months ago. Emma was reading this massive book about wine regions, and I made some terrible joke about how she must be studying for a really specific final exam. It was the worst pickup line I'd ever heard. Emma picked up seamlessly, and the crowd laughed, but he looked so mortified that I felt sorry for him. Plus, he bought me a chocolate croissant to make up for it. And the rest is history, Lily declared, clearly delighted. Now, I think it's time for all the couples to join us on the dance floor. The jazz quartet launched into a slow version of The Way You Look Tonight. And suddenly, Noah found himself leading Emma onto the dance floor. She moved into his arms with surprising grace, one hand on his shoulder, the other clasped in his. "How did you know about the coffee shop story?" he asked as they began to sway. "Lucky guess. You seem like the type who would rehearse a meet. Cute story." Her amber eyes met his. "Though I have to ask, what happens when your family wants to meet my family, or when they expect us to have couple friends? What about social media photos, birthday parties, Christmas?" Each question hit him like a small hammer blow. He hadn't thought any of this through. I was hoping to figure something out before it got that complicated. "Noah." Her voice was gentle but firm. "This was already complicated the moment you kissed me." They danced in silence for a moment, and Noah became acutely aware of how perfectly she fit in his arms. She smelled like jasmine and vanilla, and when she looked up at him, something in his chest tightened. "Why did you invent Emma in the first place?" she asked softly. Noah sighed, his thumb unconsciously tracing circles on her hand. "My ex-fiancée Olivia left me at the altar 3 years ago. Literally, I was standing there in my tux, and she just didn't show up. Turned out she'd been having doubts for months, but didn't know how to tell me." Emma's expression softened. "That's awful." The worst part was everyone's reaction afterward. The pity, the constant attempts to set me up with their cousin's friend's sister. My family meant well, but I felt like a broken toy they were trying to fix. He met her eyes. Emma was supposed to be temporary, just a buffer until everyone moved on to worrying about someone else's love life. But they didn't move on. If anything, they got more invested. Grandma Lillian started talking about great-grandchildren. My mother bought Emma a Christmas present last year. "What kind of present?" "A scarf. It's still in my closet with the tags on." Despite everything, Emma smiled. "That's actually really sweet. It's horrifying. I have a closet full of gifts for an imaginary person, and now I'm dancing with a beautiful stranger who's pretending to be her." The words hung between them, and Noah realized what he'd just said. Emma's cheeks flushed slightly. "You think I'm beautiful?" "I think you're incredible," he said honestly. "You've been handling this insane situation with more grace than I would have thought possible. Most people would have run screaming by now." "The night's still young," she said. But she was smiling. The song ended, but they didn't immediately separate. Around them, other couples chatted and laughed, but Noah felt like he and Emma were in their own bubble. "Noah," she said quietly, "what happens tomorrow?" Before he could answer, a new voice cut through the moment, like a cold blade. "Well, well, well, Noah Carter." They turned to see a woman in a sleek black dress approaching, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her smile sharp as broken glass. Noah's stomach dropped to his feet. "Olivia," he breathed. His ex-fiancée extended a perfectly manicured hand to Emma. "And you must be the famous Emma I've been hearing so much about. I'm Olivia Harper, Noah's former fiancée." Emma's hand tightened slightly on Noah's arm, and he could feel the tension radiating from her. Olivia's presence changed everything. This wasn't just about fooling his loving family anymore. This was about to become a battlefield. "It's so nice to finally meet you, Emma," Olivia continued, her voice honey, sweet and poison, laced. "I have so many questions about how you and Noah got together. We have so much to catch up on. Napa Valley Vineyard, the confrontation." The air around them seemed to crystallize as Olivia Harper stood there in her perfectly tailored black dress, looking like she'd stepped off the pages of a high-end fashion magazine. Every blonde hair was in place, every detail of her appearance calculated for maximum impact. Emma could feel Noah's entire body tense beside her, his hand unconsciously tightening on her waist. "Olivia," Noah managed, his voice carefully neutral. "I didn't know you'd be here." "Lily and I reconnected through yoga class," Olivia replied smoothly, her ice-blue eyes never leaving Emma's face. "When she mentioned her cousin's wedding, I simply had to come support her. And imagine my surprise when I heard that you'd finally found someone special." The word "finally" dripped with subtle condescension, and Emma felt her protective instincts flare. She'd only known Noah for 2 hours, but something about Olivia's predatory smile made her want to step between them like a shield. "It's lovely to meet you," Emma said, extending her hand with a warm smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Noah's mentioned you, of course." Olivia's handshake was brief and cold. "All good things, I hope." "He's remarkably gracious about the past," Emma replied, and she felt Noah's surprised glance. "It takes real character to speak kindly about someone who hurt you." A flicker of something dangerous passed through Olivia's expression before she recovered her perfect composure. "Heard him. Oh, my dear, I think there's been some miscommunication about what happened between us." "Ladies," Noah interjected quickly, "maybe we should—" "No, no." Olivia waved a dismissive hand. "Emma deserves to know the truth about her boyfriend's past, don't you think? After all, honesty is so important in a relationship." The irony wasn't lost on any of them, but Olivia continued blindly on. "You see, Emma, Noah and I simply realized we wanted different things. I was ready for adventure, for growth, for expanding my horizons. But Noah," she tilted her head sympathetically, "well, he's always been more comfortable with routine, predictability. Some might say he's afraid of taking real risks." Emma felt a surge of indignation on Noah's behalf. Taking risks like kissing a complete stranger at a wedding reception? The words were out before she could stop them, and she immediately regretted the implication. But Olivia's eyes sharpened with interest. "How wonderfully spontaneous, though. I have to say, Emma, you look remarkably familiar. Have we met before? You remind me of someone." Noah's panic was almost palpable now. "Olivia, I think." "Oh!" Olivia snapped her fingers, her face lighting up with false recognition. "I know exactly who you remind me of. There's a sommelier at this darling little wine bar in San Francisco who looks just like you. Emma something? Liu, I think. She does private tastings for our firm sometimes." The blood drained from Emma's face. Of all the impossible coincidences in the world, Olivia actually knew who she was. "How interesting," Olivia continued, watching Emma's reaction like a cat with a cornered mouse. "She's quite talented, actually. Specializes in Burgundian wines, if I remember correctly. Such a small world, isn't it?" Emma's mind raced. Denial would be pointless now. Olivia clearly recognized her, but admitting the truth would destroy Noah in front of his entire family. She could see them out of the corner of her eye. Grandma Lillian chatting happily with other relatives, completely unaware that their perfect evening was about to implode. "Olivia," Noah said quietly, a warning in his voice. "What are you doing?" "Just catching up with old friends and making new ones," Olivia replied innocently. "Though I am curious about one thing, Emma. How exactly did a professional sommelier from San Francisco end up being Noah's girlfriend from Portland? That's quite a commute for a relationship." The moment stretched like a taut wire. Emma could feel the weight of Noah's family's expectations, the warmth of his grandmother's earlier embrace, the genuine affection in his mother's eyes. These people had welcomed her like family based on a lie. But their love for Noah was absolutely real, and Olivia was about to destroy all of it for what? Revenge? Spite? The satisfaction of proving she could still hurt the man she'd abandoned. "You're absolutely right," Emma said suddenly, her voice clear and steady. "I am Emma Liu." Noah's sharp intake of breath was audible, but she continued before he could speak. "I lied about my name when we met because I was dealing with a difficult client situation and didn't want to mix my professional and personal life. It was silly, really, but by the time I realized how much Noah's family meant to him, it felt too awkward to correct." She looked directly at Olivia. "Noah knows, of course. He's been gently teasing me about it for months, haven't you, honey?" The endearment rolled off her tongue naturally, and she felt Noah's surprise transform into something warmer. "Every chance I get," he said, his voice gaining strength. "Though I still think Emma suits you better. See?" Emma laughed. The sound light and natural. "He's impossible, but yes, I do specialize in Burgundian wines, and I have done some consulting work. It's wonderful that we have that connection, Olivia. Small world indeed." Olivia's perfect composure cracked slightly. She'd clearly expected her revelation to cause more damage. "How convenient," she said slowly. "And you currently live in Portland?" "Actually, I've been spending more and more time here in California, Emma improvised smoothly. Noah's been very patient with my somewhat nomadic lifestyle. The wine industry keeps me traveling quite a bit. Nomadic, Olivia repeated, and Emma could practically see the wheels turning in her head. How exhausting that must be for your relationship. All that distance, all those opportunities to meet new people. The implication was clear, and this time Noah stepped forward. Olivia, that's enough. I'm just concerned for you, darling. Olivia's voice dripped with false sympathy. Long-distance relationships are so challenging. The temptation, the loneliness, I'd hate to see you get hurt again. The only person who ever hurt me, Noah said quietly, is standing right in front of me, and I got over that a long time ago. Something flickered across Olivia's face, surprise, perhaps even hurt. For a moment, her perfect mask slipped, and Emma caught a glimpse of something vulnerable underneath. Noah, number. His voice was firm but not unkind. You made your choice 3 years ago. You decided I wasn't enough, that our life together wasn't enough. And you know what? You were probably right. We weren't right for each other. He turned to Emma, and the warmth in his eyes took her breath away. But this, he gestured between them. This feels different. Emma challenges me, surprises me, makes me want to be better. She sees possibilities I never considered, and makes even ordinary moments feel like adventures. As he spoke, Emma realized with a jolt that he wasn't just performing for Olivia anymore. There was something real in his voice, something that made her heart skip erratically. That's lovely, Olivia said, but her voice had lost its sharp edge. I'm sure you'll be very happy together. The dismissal was clear, but as she turned to leave, she paused and looked back at Emma. You know, I really do hope things work out for you two. But Emma, her voice softened almost imperceptibly. Be careful. Noah has a tendency to fall in love with the idea of someone rather than who they really are. Just make sure he's seeing the real you. With that cryptic warning, she melted back into the crowd, leaving Noah and Emma standing alone on the edge of the dance floor. They stood in silence for a moment, the weight of what had just happened settling between them. I'm sorry, Noah said finally. I should have warned you that she might be here. I should have... Stop, Emma placed a gentle hand on his arm. You don't need to apologize for her behavior, but what she said about the name thing about recognizing you was handled. Emma met his eyes. We're okay. Your family still thinks we're the perfect couple, and Olivia's little power play backfired. Yeah, but... Noah paused, studying her face. Why did you do that? You could have let her expose everything. It would have gotten you out of this mess. Emma considered the question seriously. Why had she protected him? Why had she cared more about his family's feelings than her own escape route? Your grandmother bought Emma a Christmas scarf, she said softly. That kind of love, it deserves protecting. Noah's expression grew tender. Emma, he began, but she added quickly, trying to lighten the moment. Plus, Olivia was really getting on my nerves. There's something deeply satisfying about disappointing a mean girl. That earned her a genuine laugh, and the tension between them eased. Dance with me again? He asked, extending his hand. Are you sure you can handle another slow song without Olivia swooping in to cause more drama? I'm willing to risk it if you are. As they moved back onto the dance floor, Emma became acutely aware that something had shifted between them. The desperate panic of their earlier interactions had been replaced by something warmer, more genuine. When Noah pulled her close this time, it didn't feel like an act. What she said at the end, Emma said quietly as they swayed to the music. About you falling in love with ideas rather than reality. Was there truth in that? Noah was quiet for so long that Emma thought he might not answer. Maybe, he admitted finally. With Olivia, I think I was more in love with the idea of being engaged, of having everything figured out, than I was with her specifically. When she left, it wasn't just heartbreak. It was this terrible realization that maybe I'd been living in a fantasy. Is that why you created Emma? Another fantasy? Number? His response was immediate and certain. Emma was supposed to be a shield, not a dream, just protection from having to try again. They danced in comfortable silence, and Emma found herself studying his face in the soft vineyard lighting. There were laugh lines around his eyes, a small scar on his chin that spoke of childhood adventures, a gentleness in his expression that suggested he was exactly the kind of man who would buy Christmas presents for an imaginary girlfriend rather than disappoint his grandmother. Noah? What happens now? Olivia knows who I really am. Even if she doesn't say anything tonight, she could cause problems later. Noah's hand tightened slightly on her waist. I don't know. I guess I'll have to figure out how to untangle this mess without hurting anyone else. Anyone else meaning your family? Anyone else meaning you? He corrected softly. You've already done more than I had any right to ask. I can't keep dragging you deeper into my complications. But as he said it, Emma realized she wasn't entirely sure she wanted to be untangled from his complications. Standing here in his arms, surrounded by the warmth of his family's love and the magical atmosphere of the vineyard, she felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time. She felt like she belonged. The realization should have terrified her. Instead, it filled her with a dangerous kind of hope. What if, she said carefully, I don't mind being a little more tangled up. Noah's steps faltered slightly. Emma, I'm just saying hypothetically that maybe we don't have to figure everything out tonight. Maybe we could just see what happens. He stopped dancing entirely, pulling back to search her face. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? I'm suggesting, she said, her heart hammering against her ribs, that maybe your family's Christmas dinner invitation doesn't have to be the worst thing that's ever happened to either of us. For a moment, they stood frozen in the middle of the dance floor, the weight of possibility hanging between them like a bridge neither was quite ready to cross. Then Noah smiled, a real, genuine, heart-stopping smile that made Emma understand exactly why his family was so determined to see him happy. Emma Lou, he said, would you like to be my fake girlfriend for a little while longer? Noah Carter, she replied, surprising herself with how much she meant it. I thought you'd never ask. San Francisco, California. 1 week later, Emma stared at her reflection in her apartment's full-length mirror, second-guessing her outfit choice for the third time in 10 minutes. The navy blue dress was professional but not stuffy, elegant but not overdressed, perfect for meeting Noah's parents for their first official couples dinner at an upscale restaurant in Union Square. The problem wasn't the dress. The problem was that somewhere between the vineyard last weekend and this moment, the line between pretending and reality had become dangerously blurred. Her phone buzzed with a text from Noah. Outside, whenever you're ready. No pressure, but my mom has been planning this dinner since Tuesday and may actually combust from excitement if we're late. Despite her nerves, Emma smiled. Over the past week, they'd exchanged dozens of texts under the guise of coordinating their story. But their conversations had evolved far beyond logistics. He'd sent her photos of his morning coffee with increasingly ridiculous latte art attempts. She'd shared pictures of the spectacular sunset from her wine bar's rooftop terrace. They debated everything from the merits of French versus Italian winemaking techniques to whether pineapple belonged on pizza, a surprisingly heated discussion that lasted 3 hours and revealed that Noah was far more passionate about food than she'd initially realized. The casual intimacy of their text exchanges felt more natural than any relationship she'd had in years, which was precisely the problem. Grabbing her purse and a light jacket, Emma headed downstairs to find Noah leaning against a sleek black sedan, looking unfairly handsome in a charcoal gray suit that perfectly complemented his dark hair. When he saw her, his face lit up with the kind of genuine smile that made her stomach do small somersaults. You look incredible, he said, straightening up. Though I should probably mention that my mother has already planned our hypothetical wedding colors based on what you wore to the vineyard. So, no pressure or anything. Wedding colors? Emma laughed, accepting the car door he held open for her. What did she decide on? Midnight blue and silver with touches of burgundy, Noah replied, sliding into the driver's seat. She's already bookmarked 17 different venues and has strong opinions about centerpieces. Your mother works fast. You have no idea. She's created a Pinterest board called Emma's Dream Wedding with over 200 pins. I made the mistake of mentioning that you liked peonies during our phone call Wednesday, and now she's researching seasonal flower availability. As they drove through San Francisco's evening traffic, Emma marveled at how comfortable she felt with him. The initial panic and awkwardness of their first meeting had been replaced by an easy rapport that felt both surprising and inevitable. Noah was funnier than she'd expected, with a dry wit that caught her off guard, and he listened with the kind of focused attention that made her feel like the most interesting person in the world. So, she said, adjusting her seatbelt, what's the game plan for tonight? Any particular version of our love story I should be prepared to tell? Actually, I've been thinking about that. Noah navigated around a cable car with practiced ease. What if we just told the truth? Modified truth, obviously, but truth nonetheless. The truth being that you randomly kissed me at your cousin's wedding because you were desperate to avoid admitting you'd been lying to your family for 2 years? When you put it like that, it sounds less romantic than I was hoping for. Emma considered this. What if we frame it differently? What if Emma, pretending to be Emma, was someone you'd noticed at the wedding, but hadn't had the courage to approach? The family pressure just gave you the motivation to finally make a move. So, I was smitten from across the vineyard, completely smitten. Love at first sight even. It explains the impulsive kiss and why we seem so comfortable together despite supposedly just meeting. Noah glanced at her with something unreadable in his expression. Love at first sight. There was something in his tone that made Emma's pulse quicken, but before she could analyze it, they were pulling up to the restaurant. The valet took their car, and suddenly they were walking into an elegant establishment with warm lighting and the kind of understated luxury that suggested Noah's parents had excellent taste and healthy bank accounts. There they are. A woman who was clearly Noah's mother rose from a corner table, her face glowing with maternal pride. Ellen Carter was exactly what Emma had expected, elegant, warm, and radiating the kind of maternal energy that made you want to both hug her and desperately seek her approval. Beside her, a distinguished man with Noah's eyes and a slightly graying beard stood with a welcoming smile. This had to be Richard Carter, and Emma could immediately see where Noah got his gentle humor and quiet confidence. Emma. Ellen enveloped Emma in a hug that felt genuinely affectionate. I'm so sorry we missed you properly at the wedding. Between the photos and the dancing and that dreadful Olivia causing drama, we barely got to say hello. It's wonderful to see you again, Mrs. Carter, Emma replied, surprised by how natural the words felt. Ellen, please. We're practically family now. Ellen's eyes sparkled as she looked between Emma and Noah. Richard, doesn't she look lovely? Beautiful, Richard agreed, shaking Emma's hand with a firm, warm grip. And please call me Richard. Noah's told us so much about you, though he's been frustratingly vague about details. As they settled into their seats, Emma noticed the careful way Noah's parents watched them together. Not intrusive exactly, but clearly invested in their son's happiness. It was touching and terrifying in equal measure. So, Emma, Ellen began once they'd ordered drinks. Noah mentioned you're originally from Portland, but you've been spending more time in California lately. Are you thinking of making the move permanent? The question was casual, but Emma caught the underlying hope in Ellen's voice. These people wanted their son to be happy so desperately that they were already emotionally investing in a relationship that was fundamentally a lie. I'm definitely considering it, Emma replied carefully. My work gives me flexibility, and California has been growing on me. What specifically about California? Richard asked. The weather? The wine country? The company? His eyes twinkled with fatherly mischief, and Emma felt herself relaxing despite the complicated circumstances. Definitely the company, she said, glancing at Noah, though the wine country doesn't hurt either. Speaking of which, Ellen leaned forward conspiratorially. We were hoping you might help us plan a little surprise for Noah's birthday next month. He's been so stressed with work lately, and we thought a weekend getaway might be nice. Maybe somewhere in Sonoma County. Emma's heart sank. Noah's birthday was next month, and they were already planning celebrations that included her. The web of deception was expanding beyond anything she'd anticipated. That sounds wonderful, she managed. Though I should probably check my schedule. Already done, Noah interjected smoothly, his hand finding hers on the table. I may have mentioned to Emma that my birthday weekend was sacred family time. She's been looking forward to it for weeks. The casual way he lied to his parents should have bothered her, but instead, Emma found herself admiring his quick thinking. His thumb traced gentle circles on her knuckles, and she wondered if the gesture was for his parents' benefit or if he was as nervous as she was. Perfect. Ellen clapped her hands together. We were thinking of renting a house near Healdsburg, something with a kitchen so we can cook together. Maybe a hot tub for relaxing. Very low-key and family-oriented. Emma loves cooking, Noah added, apparently deciding to improvise wildly. She makes this incredible risotto that's basically life-changing. Emma shot him a look that she hoped conveyed, "We are going to have a serious conversation about my supposed culinary skills later," but smiled at his parents. "I do enjoy cooking, though I think Noah might be overselling my abilities." "Nonsense," Richard said. "Any woman who can capture our son's attention for more than 5 minutes clearly has exceptional talents. He's been impossible to pin down for family dinners since college." "Dad," Noah protested, but he was smiling. "It's true. Remember Sarah from your marketing department? Lovely girl. Well, we liked her immediately, but you canceled 3 family dinners in a row because you were too busy with projects. Sarah was nice," Noah agreed, "but we didn't have much in common. And Jennifer, the lawyer from your building? Beautiful, successful, great sense of humor. Who talked exclusively about her workout routine and her Pilates instructor's philosophical insights on chakra alignment." Noah finished. "Not exactly stimulating conversation." "But with Emma," Ellen observed, "you haven't missed a single family call in 2 weeks. You actually seem excited to talk about your relationship instead of deflecting every question with work talk." The observation hit closer to home than Emma expected. She had noticed that Noah seemed more relaxed when they talked, more open than she'd imagined he would be with someone he'd known for such a short time. Their conversations flowed with an ease that felt both effortless and rare. "Maybe I'm just finally ready to prioritize the right things," Noah said, his eyes meeting Emma's with an intensity that made her forget they were pretending. "Well, whatever the reason." Richard raised his wine glass. "We're thrilled to see you so happy. To Noah and Emma, may this be the beginning of something wonderful." As they clinked glasses, Emma felt the weight of their expectations and genuine affection settling over her like a warm, suffocating blanket. These people loved their son so much that they were prepared to love her too, based on nothing more than his happiness and a handful of carefully constructed lies. The conversation flowed easily through dinner. Ellen and Richard were natural storytellers, sharing embarrassing childhood stories about Noah that made him groan and Emma laugh until her sides ached. They asked thoughtful questions about her work, her family, her interests, treating her like a beloved future daughter-in-law rather than a stranger they'd just met. "You know," Ellen said as they shared dessert, "I have to confess something. When Noah first told us about you, I was a little worried that you might be too good to be true. After Olivia, he was so closed off, so determined to avoid any emotional risk. But watching you two together, seeing how naturally you complement each other," she paused, her eyes growing slightly misty, "it gives me hope that he's finally found someone who sees him the way we do." "And how is that?" Emma asked softly. "Has someone worth taking a chance on?" Richard replied simply. The sincerity in his voice hit Emma like a physical blow. She excused herself to the restroom, needing a moment to collect herself away from the overwhelming warmth of their acceptance. In the elegant bathroom, she stared at her reflection and tried to process the emotional whiplash of the evening. These people weren't just welcoming her, they were investing in her, planning futures that included her, treating her like family. And the most terrifying part was how much she wanted to deserve their faith. When she returned to the table, she found Noah alone, his parents having stepped outside to call his grandmother with an update on the dinner. "You okay?" he asked immediately, studying her face with concern. "You looked a little overwhelmed." "Your parents are wonderful," she said, sliding back into her seat. "They're also completely convinced that we're the real deal." "I know." Noah's expression was troubled. "They're already talking about Christmas plans and vacation houses and—" He trailed off, running a hand through his hair. "This is getting complicated fast." "Complicated how?" "Complicated because I'm starting to forget that this is supposed to be fake." The admission hung between them like a confession, and Emma felt her pulse accelerate. She opened her mouth to respond, but Ellen and Richard returned to the table, their faces glowing with grandmotherly reports and family updates. "Grandma Lillian wants to know when you're bringing Emma to her famous Sunday brunch," Ellen announced. "Apparently, she's been bragging to her bridge club about Noah's girlfriend and needs photographic evidence to back up her claims." "Sunday brunch?" Emma repeated weakly. "Oh, it's wonderful," Richard assured her. "Lillian makes these incredible blueberry pancakes, and the whole extended family comes by throughout the morning. Very casual, very chaotic, very large." "How large are we talking?" Noah asked suspiciously. "Well, last week we had about 25 people," Ellen said cheerfully. But that was a quiet Sunday. This weekend, Uncle Frank mentioned that his kids might drive up from Los Angeles. And you know how word spreads once the cousins start calling each other. So, potentially 40 people, Noah translated. Potentially, Richard agreed. But they'll love Emma. Everyone's been dying to meet her. As they said their goodbyes outside the restaurant, with Ellen extracting promises about Sunday brunch and Richard insisting on paying the check, despite Noah's protests, Emma felt like she was being drawn deeper into a warm, loving current that was becoming impossible to resist. In the car afterward, they drove in contemplative silence through the city lights. 40 people, Emma said finally. 40 people, Noah confirmed. Your grandmother's house, presumably with more photo opportunities and family interrogations, and we're supposed to be madly in love. Madly, Noah agreed. Completely, hopelessly, head over heels in love. They stopped at a red light, and he turned to look at her in the glow of the streetlights. His expression was serious, almost vulnerable. Emma, what are we doing? It was the question she'd been avoiding all week. The elephant in the room that grew larger with every shared laugh, every casual touch, every moment when the pretense felt less like acting and more like hope. I don't know, she admitted, but I don't think I'm ready to stop doing it yet. The light turned green, but Noah didn't immediately accelerate. Instead, he reached across the console and took her hand, threading their fingers together with a naturalness that should have alarmed her. 40 people is a lot of witnesses, he said quietly. It is. If we're going to do this, we need to be convincing. Very convincing. Which means we probably need to practice. Practice what exactly? Noah pulled over to the curb and turned to face her fully. Being a couple. Real couple behavior. The kind of intimacy that convinces 40 family members that we're not just two people who met a week ago and decided to fake a relationship. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. What kind of practice did you have in mind? Instead of answering immediately, Noah reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingertips trailing along her jawline. The gesture was tender, intimate, exactly the kind of casual affection that long-term couples shared without thinking. We need to be comfortable touching each other, he said softly. Comfortable with casual intimacy, comfortable enough that it looks natural instead of rehearsed. That makes sense, Emma managed, acutely aware of how his hand was still cupping her face. And we need to develop the kind of shorthand that couples have inside jokes, shared looks, the ability to communicate without words. Also practical. And we probably need to know more about each other. Real things, not just the fictional details we've been improvising, such as the fact that you get this little wrinkle between your eyebrows when you're thinking hard about something, Noah said, his thumb gently smoothing the spot he'd mentioned, or that you twist your hair around your finger when you're nervous, or that you have a tiny scar on your chin that's almost invisible, unless you're sitting close enough to notice it. Emma's breath caught. You've been paying attention. I've been trying not to, he admitted, but you're not exactly easy to ignore. The space between them seemed to shrink, charged with possibility and the weight of unspoken questions. Emma found herself leaning slightly forward, drawn by the warmth in his eyes and the gentle pressure of his hand against her cheek. Noah, yeah. I think we might be in trouble. Good trouble or bad trouble. I'm not sure there's a difference anymore. He leaned closer, and for a moment, Emma thought he might kiss her again. But instead, he rested his forehead against hers, his eyes closing as if he was trying to memorize the moment. 40 people, he whispered. 40 people, she agreed. We better get really good at this fake relationship thing. Really, really good. But as they sat there in the warm car with the city lights painting patterns on the windshield, both of them knew that the line between fake and real had already been crossed. The question now wasn't whether they could convince his family they were in love. The question was whether they could convince themselves they weren't. Berkeley Hills, California, Grandma Lillian's house. Sunday morning, Emma stood on the wraparound porch of Grandma Lillian's Victorian house, clutching a bouquet of white peonies and trying to calm her racing heart. The house was exactly what she'd expected from a woman who had raised 3 children and spoiled countless grandchildren. Warm, welcoming, and currently overflowing with the sounds of what appeared to be a small army of carters preparing for Sunday brunch. Through the windows, she could see people moving around inside, setting tables, arranging flowers, and engaging in the kind of comfortable chaos that spoke of decades of family traditions. Children's laughter echoed from the backyard, mixing with adult conversation and the clatter of dishes being arranged buffet style. 40 people, she murmured to herself, adjusting her sundress for the third time. She'd chosen the soft yellow fabric because it seemed appropriately cheerful and family-friendly, but now she wondered if she looked too formal, too trying hard, too obviously like someone who was desperately attempting to make a good impression on people she was lying to. 43, actually, Noah said, appearing beside her with 2 coffee cups and an expression that suggested he was just as nervous as she was. Uncle Frank's family did drive up from Los Angeles, and apparently my cousin Sophie decided to bring her new boyfriend, which means everyone's going to be analyzing our relationship in comparison to theirs. Emma accepted the coffee gratefully, inhaling the rich aroma like it might provide courage. So, no pressure or anything. None whatsoever. Noah's smile was wry, but she could see the genuine anxiety in his eyes. Though, I should probably mention that my cousin Daniel, the detective, has been asking pointed questions about why he's never met you before, and my teenage cousin Ryan has been researching sommelier certification requirements because he thinks it's suspicious that you know so much about Burgundian vintages. Your family takes their vetting process seriously. My family takes everything seriously, except Uncle Frank's jokes, which everyone politely ignores because he means well but has the comedic timing of a broken metronome. Despite her nerves, Emma laughed. Over the past week, she'd grown to love Noah's dry humor and his ability to find levity in even the most stressful situations. It was one of many things about him that she'd discovered during their careful preparation for this moment: late-night phone calls that stretched for hours, coffee dates disguised as story coordination sessions, and long walks through Golden Gate Park, where they shared increasingly personal details about their lives. She knew now that he was left-handed but had learned to write with his right hand because a kindergarten teacher thought it would be easier. She knew he had a scar on his shoulder from falling out of a tree at age 10 while trying to rescue a neighbor's cat. She knew he made terrible pancakes but incredible scrambled eggs, that he read mystery novels when he couldn't sleep, and that he had a habit of humming absently when he was concentrating, and she was beginning to suspect that she was falling in love with him. The realization should have terrified her, but instead, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Noah Carter was kind without being naive, funny without being cruel, and honest in a way that made her want to be better than she was. The fact that their relationship had started with a lie felt increasingly irrelevant compared to how real everything between them had become. "Ready?" Noah asked, offering his arm. "As ready as someone can be to deceive 43 people who've welcomed her like family," Emma replied, taking his arm and marveling at how natural the gesture felt. 43 people who are going to love you," Noah corrected softly. "Because you're impossible not to love." The words hit her like a gentle shock, and she looked up to find him watching her with an expression that was far too tender for someone who was supposed to be pretending. Before she could respond, the front door burst open, and Grandma Lillian appeared like a silver-haired hurricane of excitement. "There they are," she called over her shoulder to the house at large. "Noah and Emma are here." The response was immediate and overwhelming. People began emerging from various rooms and doorways: aunts and uncles, cousins ranging from toddlers to college students, family friends who had apparently achieved honorary relative status, and what appeared to be at least 3 dogs of various sizes and levels of training. "Emma, sweetheart." Lillian enveloped Emma in a hug that smelled like vanilla and cinnamon. "You look absolutely radiant. Doesn't she look radiant, everyone?" A chorus of agreement rose from the assembled crowd, and Emma found herself being passed from person to person like a beloved celebrity making a public appearance. There was Uncle Frank, whose enthusiastic handshake nearly dislocated her shoulder, and Aunt Margaret, who immediately began complimenting her hair and asking for the name of her stylist. There were teenage cousins who regarded her with the skeptical curiosity of young people who had seen too many of their relatives' romantic disasters, and older cousins who welcomed her with the weary warmth of people who had learned that family harmony was more important than personal drama. Emma. A woman about Emma's age approached with a genuine smile and a baby balanced on her hip. "I'm Hannah, Noah's cousin. This is little Liam, who's usually much more charming when he's not teething." "He's beautiful," Emma said honestly, and was rewarded when the baby reached out to grab her finger with a surprisingly strong grip. "Oh, he likes you," Hannah laughed. "That's a good sign. Liam has excellent judgment in people." "Noah, why didn't you tell us that Emma was a baby whisperer?" "I'm still discovering her hidden talents," Noah replied, and something in his voice made Emma's pulse quicken. Speaking of hidden talents, came a new voice. I'd love to hear more about your sommelier certification. Emma turned to find herself face to face with a man who looked like a slightly older, more serious version of Noah. This had to be Daniel, the detective cousin who'd been asking pointed questions. "Daniel," Noah said with a warning tone, "play nice." "I'm always nice," Daniel replied innocently. "I'm just curious about Emma's background. It's not every day we meet someone with such specialized knowledge about wine regions." Emma felt the weight of his scrutiny and realized this was her first real test. Daniel wasn't asking because he was suspicious of her profession. He was suspicious of her entire existence, and he was smart enough to ask questions that would expose any inconsistencies in her story. "I studied at UC Davis," she said calmly, falling back on the truth wherever possible. "The viticulture and enology program there is excellent for understanding both the science and the art of winemaking." "Impressive," Daniel nodded. "And you specialize in Burgundian wines specifically?" "French wines in general, but yes, Burgundy is a particular passion. The terroir there is so complex, and the way climate variations affect the Pinot Noir grape from year to year creates these incredible opportunities to taste the story of specific vineyards and specific seasons." As she spoke, Emma realized she'd forgotten to be nervous. This was her area of expertise, her genuine passion, and talking about wine felt as natural as breathing. "Fascinating," Daniel said, and she could see his suspicion beginning to shift into genuine interest. "What's your take on the climate change effects on traditional Burgundy regions?" "Oh, that's such an important question," Emma replied, warming to the topic. "The temperature increases are definitely shifting the harvest timing, and some producers are experimenting with higher altitude vineyards to maintain the acidity levels that make Burgundy distinctive." She continued talking, aware that she'd gathered a small audience of family members who seemed genuinely interested in her explanations. Noah watched her with obvious pride, and even Daniel appeared to be relaxing his investigative stance. "You really know your stuff," said a young woman, who introduced herself as Cousin Sophie. "I manage a restaurant in Sacramento, and we're always struggling with wine pairings. Maybe you could recommend some alternatives to the usual suspects." Before Emma knew it, she was surrounded by family members asking questions about wine pairings, restaurant recommendations, and travel advice for wine country visits. "All right, everyone," Grandma Lillian's voice cut through the chatter. "Let's let Emma breathe and get some food in all of you before you badger the poor girl to death with questions." The family dispersed toward the dining room, but not before several people had asked for her contact information for future wine consultations. Emma felt a warm glow of acceptance that had nothing to do with her fake relationship status and everything to do with being appreciated for her knowledge and expertise. "That was impressive," Noah said quietly as they followed the crowd toward the buffet. "You won over the interrogation committee without breaking a sweat." "Your family is genuinely interested in learning new things," Emma replied. "It's refreshing. Most people just want to know if I can get them discounts on expensive bottles." The dining room was a masterpiece of organized chaos. Multiple tables had been arranged to accommodate the crowd, and the buffet table groaned under the weight of Grandma Lillian's legendary spread. Towering stacks of blueberry pancakes, crispy bacon, perfectly seasoned home fries, fresh fruit arranged in artistic displays, and what appeared to be at least 3 different types of homemade bread. "Lillian, this is incredible," Emma said as the older woman handed her a plate. "How do you manage to cook for so many people?" "Practice, dear, and lots of help," Lillian replied with a pleased smile. "Though I have to admit, it's more fun when I have someone new to cook for. Noah's been bragging about your cooking abilities, so I'm hoping you'll share that risotto recipe he mentioned." Emma shot Noah a look that promised future retribution for his fictional culinary claims, but smiled at Lillian. "I'd be happy to. Though I have to warn you, it's not nearly as impressive as all this." "Nonsense. Any woman who can make my grandson light up the way you do is clearly talented in ways that matter most." As they found seats at one of the smaller tables with Hannah, Daniel, and a few other cousins, Emma marveled at the easy intimacy of the family dynamic. Conversations flowed across tables with people jumping between topics, sharing inside jokes, and checking in on each other's lives, with the kind of genuine interest that spoke of deep, long-term affection. "So, Emma," Hannah said as she cut up food for little Liam, "what's the plan for Noah's birthday next month? Mom mentioned something about a Sonoma getaway." "We're still working out the details," Emma replied carefully. "Though I have to admit, I'm excited to spend more time in wine country with all of you." Fair warning, Daniel interjected with a grin. This family takes birthday celebrations very seriously. Last year, we rented a house in Tahoe for Dad's 60th, and it turned into a 3-day festival of hiking, cooking competitions, and Uncle Frank's attempts at stand-up comedy. The cooking competition part sounds fun, Emma said. Oh, it is, Hannah agreed. Though, you should know that Noah is notoriously competitive about his breakfast game. He spent 2 hours perfecting his omelet technique just to beat Cousin Sophie's French toast. I won that competition fair and square, Noah protested. My herb omelet was a work of art. Your herb omelet was pretentious. Sophie called out from the next table, apparently having overheard. Who puts microgreens in an omelet at a family breakfast? Someone who understands that presentation matters. Noah shot back, and the good-natured argument that followed made Emma laugh until her sides ached. As the morning progressed, she found herself relaxing into the rhythm of Carter family chaos. There were stories about childhood pranks, debates about the best hiking trails in Northern California, and a lengthy discussion about whether the family should adopt a group costume theme for Halloween. Uncle Frank told a series of increasingly terrible jokes that everyone pretended to enjoy. The teenagers explained current social media trends to bemused adults. The dogs made periodic attempts to steal food from unguarded plates. Through it all, Emma was acutely aware of Noah beside her, the way he unconsciously reached for her hand during conversations, how he included her in family jokes, the proud smile he wore when his relatives praised her knowledge or sense of humor. Their interactions felt completely natural, like they'd been attending family brunches together for years instead of weeks. Emma. Grandma Lillian called out during a brief lull in conversation. I hope you don't mind, but I have something for you. She disappeared into the kitchen and returned with a wrapped package that she presented to Emma with a slightly nervous smile. It's nothing elaborate, Lillian said, but I saw this and thought of you. Emma unwrapped the package to find a beautiful silk scarf in shades of deep blue and silver with an intricate pattern that caught the light beautifully. It was clearly expensive, clearly chosen with care, and clearly given with genuine affection. Lillian, this is gorgeous, Emma said, her voice slightly thick with emotion. But you didn't need to. Of course I did. Lillian interrupted. You're family now. And I have to admit, I've been so excited about having another woman in the family who might appreciate beautiful things. Don't get me wrong, I love my granddaughters, but Hannah's idea of fashion is whatever's clean and doesn't show baby spit up, and Sophie thinks accessorizing means wearing her lucky hiking boots. Hey, both women protested simultaneously, but they were laughing. Emma held the scarf against herself, feeling the weight of Lillian's generosity and the complexity of accepting a gift that was given under false pretenses. The silk was beautiful, clearly chosen with thought and care, and the gesture felt so genuinely loving that it made her chest tight with emotion. Thank you, she said softly. It's beautiful, and I'll treasure it. Oh, good. Lillian beamed. I was hoping you'd like it, Marcia. Blue is definitely your color. As the conversation resumed around them, Noah leaned closer to Emma, his voice low enough that only she could hear. That's the scarf, he murmured. What scarf? The Christmas scarf she bought for Emma last year. The one that's been sitting in my closet with the tags on. Emma looked down at the beautiful silk in her hands, realizing the full weight of what had just happened. This wasn't just a gift for Noah's new girlfriend. This was a gift that had been waiting for a year, chosen with love for someone who didn't exist, and now given to someone who was pretending to be that fictional person. The irony was almost too much to bear. She's been saving it, Noah continued quietly, waiting for the right moment to give it to you, to Emma. Emma felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, overwhelmed by the generosity of people who had welcomed her so completely based on nothing more than their love for Noah and their hope for his happiness. Noah, she whispered, I can't keep doing this to them. Before he could respond, the conversation around them shifted to include them again, and the moment for private discussion was lost. But Emma caught the flash of something: panic, relief, understanding in his eyes before he turned back to his family with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The rest of the brunch passed in a blur of increasingly warm interactions. Emma found herself exchanging phone numbers with Hannah for future baby and wine playdates, promising to send Daniel information about wine tours for his upcoming anniversary, and agreeing to help Sophie plan a wine tasting event for her restaurant staff. When Uncle Frank announced that it was time for the traditional post-brunch family photo, Emma found herself positioned in the center of the group, surrounded by people who had accepted her as one of their own. As the photographer, Cousin Ryan, armed with a professional-looking camera, arranged them, Emma felt the weight of 43 people's affection and expectations. "Big smiles, everyone," Ryan called out. "This one's going in the family album." The family album, permanent documentation of her place in their lives. Her face preserved alongside generations of Carter family memories. The thought should have terrified her, but instead it filled her with a longing so intense it took her breath away. After the photos, as people began to clean up and prepare for departure, Emma found herself helping carry dishes to the kitchen alongside Ellen and several other family members. The easy domesticity of the moment, washing dishes while chatting about everything, and nothing felt more natural than any relationship she'd ever had. "You know," Ellen said quietly as they worked side by side at the sink, "I haven't seen Noah this happy in years." "He's pretty wonderful," Emma replied honestly. "He is. But more than that, he's himself around you in a way that he wasn't with Olivia. More relaxed, more confident, more complete." Ellen paused in her dish, trying to look at Emma directly. "Whatever you two have together, it's good for him, and I hope it's good for you too." The sincerity in Ellen's voice was almost too much to handle. Emma focused on scrubbing a particularly stubborn pan, using the activity to hide the tears that threatened to spill over. "It is," she managed. "It's very good for me." As the afternoon wound down and family members began their various departures, Emma found herself exchanging hugs and promises to stay in touch with people who had become genuinely important to her in the span of a few hours. The teenagers made her promise to text them wine recommendations for their fake IDs, which she politely declined but appreciated the inclusion. The adults made her promise to come to the next family gathering. The children made her promise to bring them grape juice next time because wine for kids sounded fun. Grandma Lillian's goodbye was the hardest. The older woman held Emma close for a long moment, and when she pulled back, her eyes were suspiciously bright. "Thank you," Lillian said quietly, "for making my grandson so happy. I was starting to worry that he'd given up on love entirely after Olivia, but seeing him with you, it gives this old heart hope." "Lillian," Emma began. But the older woman shook her head. "No need to say anything, dear. Just take care of each other, will you? Love like what you two have is precious. Don't let the world make you forget that." As they walked back to Noah's car, both of them were quiet, processing the emotional intensity of the afternoon. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the Berkeley hills, and the air carried the first hint of evening coolness. "Well," Noah said finally as they got in the car, "that went better than I expected." "Better how?" "No one asked to see our couple's vacation photos. Daniel didn't run a background check. Ryan didn't demand to see your sommelier certification. And Uncle Frank only told 3 truly terrible jokes instead of his usual dozen." Emma managed to smile, but her heart felt heavy with the weight of the day's deceptions. "They love you so much." "They do, and they love you too. They love Emma. They love the idea of Emma. They love what Emma represents for your happiness." Noah was quiet for a moment, navigating the winding road down from the hills. When he spoke again, his voice was careful, measured. "What if Emma and Emma aren't as different as we thought?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, everything they love about Emma, your intelligence, your passion for your work, your ability to fit into our family chaos, your kindness to my grandmother, your patience with Daniel's interrogation, all of that is you, the real you." Emma stared out the window at the passing landscape, her emotions a complicated tangle of hope and guilt and longing. But the foundation is still a lie. "Noah, I'm not your girlfriend from Portland who you've been dating for 2 years. I'm not someone you fell in love with gradually over time. I'm someone you kissed in desperation at a wedding and then convinced to keep lying to your family." "Are you?" he asked quietly. "Am I what? Someone I convinced to keep lying? Or are you someone I'm falling in love with who happens to be helping me navigate the consequences of a lie I told before I met her?" The question hung between them like a bridge neither was quite ready to cross. Emma felt her heart hammering against her ribs, aware that they were approaching a conversation that would change everything between them. "Noah. Because here's the thing, Emma. I started lying about Emma because I was afraid of being vulnerable again. afraid of risking my heart on someone who might decide I wasn't worth the effort. But this week, getting to know you, spending time with you, watching you charm my family and handle Daniel's questions and make my grandmother light up with happiness." He pulled over to the side of the road and turned to face her fully. "I'm not afraid anymore." "You should be," Emma whispered, "because I'm terrified. Of how much I want this to be real. Of how perfectly I fit into your family, into your life. Of how natural it feels to hold your hand and laugh at your terrible jokes and worry about whether your relatives like me." She met his eyes, her own bright, with unshed tears. "I'm terrified because in 1 week you've made me want things I didn't even know I was missing." The space between them seemed to shimmer with possibility and risk. Noah reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face gently in his hands. "What if we stopped pretending?" he asked softly. "What if we told them the truth about how we met, apologized for the deception, and asked if we could start over as ourselves with no lies between us? And if they hate us for lying to them, then we'll deal with that together. But Emma, I can't keep pretending that what I feel for you is fake, and I don't think you can either." He was right, and they both knew it. The feelings between them had grown beyond anything either had expected, creating something real and precious and worth fighting for. "Okay," Emma whispered. "Okay, let's tell them the truth. Let's see if love built on honesty is stronger than love built on lies." Noah's smile was radiant, transforming his entire face with joy and relief. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure that I'm falling in love with you, Noah Carter. And I'm sure that your family deserves better than our deception. And I'm sure that if we're going to have a real relationship, it needs to start with real honesty. Even if it means giving up Emma. Especially if it means giving up Emma, because I want them to love me for who I really am, not for who I pretended to be." Noah leaned forward and kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. It was nothing like their first desperate kiss at the wedding. This was a kiss that spoke of choice rather than panic, of hope rather than fear, of a future they were choosing to build together. When they broke apart, both of them were smiling. "So," Emma said, "how exactly do we tell 43 people that we've been lying to them about our entire relationship?" "Very carefully," Noah replied. "And probably with a lot of wine. Lucky for us, I know where to get the good stuff." "Lucky for me," Noah corrected, taking her hand and bringing it to his lips. "I know someone amazing who's willing to take this crazy risk with me." As they drove back toward the city, their hands intertwined and their future uncertain but hopeful, both of them knew that the real love story was just beginning. Epilogue. 1 year later, Napa Valley, California, same vineyard where it all began. The autumn sun cast golden light across the vineyard as Emma adjusted her midnight blue dress. The same one she'd worn to Lily's wedding exactly 1 year ago. But this time, she wasn't a stranger desperately playing along with a fictional relationship. This time, she was exactly where she belonged. "You look nervous," Noah observed, straightening his tie as they walked toward the familiar reception area. "Should I be worried that you're going to run away when some desperate stranger tries to kiss you?" "Very funny," Emma replied, though she was smiling. "I'm not nervous about random strangers. I'm nervous about facing your entire family after we confessed to lying to them for months." "Our entire family," Noah corrected gently. "And they forgave us, remember?" Eventually, Emma laughed, remembering the family meeting they'd called 6 months ago. Grandma Lillian had been hurt but understanding. "You young people and your complicated courtships." Uncle Frank had thought it was hilarious. "Best love story I've ever heard." Daniel had been suspicious but impressed. Most people lie to get out of relationships, not into them. And Ellen had simply hugged them both and said she was proud of them for choosing honesty. The only one who'd been truly angry was Ryan, who'd felt betrayed that his detective work on sommelier certifications had been pointless. He'd gotten over it when Emma helped him plan a wine-themed proposal that had gone viral on social media. "Besides," Noah continued, taking her hand, "this time, we're not pretending. This time, when someone asks if we're madly in love, we can say yes without crossing our fingers behind our backs." "Madly in love," Emma mused. "That's one way to put it." "I prefer completely, hopelessly, ridiculously in love. I prefer engaged," Noah said with a grin that still made her heart skip. Emma looked down at the elegant sapphire ring on her left hand, a stone the exact color of her dress from that first night. Noah had explained when he proposed 3 months ago in Grandma Lillian's garden. The proposal had been perfect, no desperate panic, no fictional girlfriends, just Noah on one knee telling her that she'd made him believe in love again. "There they are," Lily's voice carried across the vineyard as she approached in her matron of honor dress. At her second wedding anniversary party, she'd insisted on recreating some elements of her original reception. "The couple of the hour, please tell me you didn't arrange for the photographer to recreate that first kiss photo," Emma said, though she was laughing. "Oh, that's definitely happening," Lily replied with wicked delight. "But this time, you'll both be expecting it." As they mingled with the other guests, many of whom had been at the original wedding, Emma marveled at how different everything felt. She wasn't frantically memorizing fictional details about Emma's life or trying to avoid awkward questions. She was simply Emma Liu, sommelier, Noah's fiancée, and beloved member of the Carter family. "Emma, dear," Grandma Lillian appeared with her usual perfect timing, resplendent in a lavender dress and wearing the biggest smile. "You look absolutely radiant. Engagement suits you beautifully." "Thank you, Lillian. You look pretty wonderful yourself." "Well, I should. I'm about to become a great-grandmother-in-law to the most delightful woman." "Speaking of which," Lillian's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Any thoughts on when you might make me an actual great-grandmother?" "Lillian," Noah protested, but he was laughing. "What? I'm 83 years old. I don't have time for subtlety anymore." Before Emma could respond, a familiar voice cut through the laughter. "Well, well," the happy couple. They turned to find Olivia approaching, looking elegant as always, but somehow softer than she had a year ago. Her smile seemed genuine rather than predatory. "Olivia," Noah said cautiously, "I didn't know you'd be here. Lily invited me. I hope that's all right." Olivia's gaze moved between them, and Emma was surprised to see what looked like genuine warmth in her eyes. "I wanted to congratulate you both, and to apologize for my behavior at the wedding last year." "Olivia," Emma began, but the other woman held up a hand. "No, please, let me say this. I was hurt and petty and probably still in love with the idea of you, Noah. Even though I knew we weren't right for each other, watching you two that night, I could see something real, something I'd never had with you, and I think I was jealous." The admission hung in the air for a moment before Olivia continued. "But seeing you now, a year later, seeing how happy you both are, I'm genuinely glad it worked out. You deserve each other in the best possible way." "Thank you," Noah said quietly. "That means a lot." "And Emma," Olivia turned to her with a rueful smile, "I have to admit, your quick thinking with the name situation was impressive. Most people would have panicked, but you turned it into part of your love story. Brilliant." "It wasn't entirely quick thinking," Emma confessed. "I was absolutely terrified you were going to expose everything." "I probably should have," Olivia admitted, "but watching Noah's face when he looked at you, I knew this was different. I knew it was real, even if the circumstances were complicated." They chatted for a few more minutes, polite, friendly conversation that felt like genuine closure to the drama of the previous year. When Olivia excused herself to find the bar, Emma felt a weight she didn't know she'd been carrying finally lift from her shoulders. "Well, that was unexpected," Noah said. "Good unexpected? Definitely good unexpected. It's nice to know that not all of my past relationships have to end with lifelong awkwardness." As the evening progressed, Emma found herself surrounded by the same warm chaos of Carter family love that had overwhelmed her a year ago. But this time, she wasn't an outsider desperately trying to fit in. She was home. Uncle Frank told the same terrible jokes, but now Emma groaned along with everyone else instead of politely laughing. Daniel regaled her with stories from his latest cases, trusting her completely after she'd proven her honesty. Hannah's baby Liam, now a toddler, demanded to be picked up by Aunt Emma every time he saw her. Ryan showed her his latest photography work and asked for advice on college applications. "Ladies and gentlemen," the DJ announced as the sun began to set, "I'd like to invite all the couples to the dance floor for a special song." The opening notes of "The Way You Look Tonight" filled the air, the same song they danced to a year ago when they were pretending to be in love. "Shall we?" Noah offered his hand with a theatrical bow. "We shall," Emma replied, taking his hand and following him onto the dance floor. As they began to sway together, Emma was struck by the parallel to their first dance. Same song, same vineyard, same man holding her close. But everything else had changed. "What are you thinking about?" Noah asked, reading her expression with the ease of someone who'd spent a year learning all her tells. "Just how different this is from last time. How much has changed?" Such as the fact that I'm not terrified you're going to step on my feet because I actually know you're a good dancer now. Such as the fact that when you tell your family how much you love me, I don't have to wonder if you're just really good at acting. Such as the fact that when this song ends, I don't have to worry about maintaining a facade for the rest of the evening. Noah spun her gently, then pulled her back into his arms. "Anything else? Such as the fact that when you kiss me now, it's not because you're desperate to avoid disappointing your grandmother. It's because you love me. Is that your way of asking me to kiss you, Emma Liu?" It might be Noah Carter. Well, in that case, he kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of the promise of all their tomorrows. Around them, other couples continued dancing, but Emma felt like they were in their own perfect bubble of happiness. When they broke apart, both of them were smiling. "You know," Emma said, "I never did thank you properly." "Thank me for what?" "For having terrible judgment in desperate moments. If you'd chosen anyone else to kiss that night, I never would have met the love of my life." "My judgment wasn't that terrible," Noah protested. "I picked you, didn't I?" "True, but you didn't know you were picking me. You just saw a woman in a blue dress and hoped for the best." "Actually," Noah said, his voice growing tender, "I saw a woman who looked like she belonged in a fairy tale, standing alone and looking like she was waiting for something magical to happen. I may have been desperate, but I wasn't blind." "Something magical?" Emma repeated softly. "Is that what this is?" "This," Noah said, gesturing to the vineyard around them, to his family dancing nearby, to the ring on her finger and the love in her eyes, "is better than magic. This is real." As the song wound to a close and the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, Emma reflected on the strange journey that had brought them to this moment. A fake relationship built on panic and lies had somehow transformed into the most honest, genuine love she'd ever experienced. "Noah? Next year, when we're back here for Lily's 3rd anniversary party, do you think we'll be married?" "Next year," Noah said with absolute certainty. "We'll be back here as Mr. and Mrs. Carter, probably arguing about whether our own wedding was more romantic than this one. And will it be more romantic?" "Impossible," Noah replied, kissing her forehead gently. "Nothing could be more romantic than the place where I met the love of my life. Even if you met her under completely insane circumstances while lying to your entire family? Especially because of that," Noah said with a laugh. "After all, how many people can say their love story started with a fake relationship and ended with the real thing?" As they swayed together under the stars, surrounded by family and friends and the promise of a lifetime of happiness ahead, Emma couldn't help but smile at the beautiful absurdity of it all. Sometimes the best love stories began with the worst ideas, and sometimes, if you were very lucky, a minute of desperation could lead to a lifetime of love. The end.